Time now for business news, and I'm thrilled to see, it's been a while, hasn't it, Steve?
It has, yeah.
Steve Carroll's in the studio with me. Now, you've been looking at the economic consequences of these agreements between Israel and the Gulf states.
Yeah, that's right. The countries haven't put an exact figure on how much they think the economic boost will be, but the estimates are that it will be in the billions of dollars in increased trade. There's potential growth for all three countries involved in these agreements, with deals to be done in areas like technology, agriculture and travel. Catherine Viette has the details.
Economic development as a bridge to peace. That's how Israel's Minister of Regional Cooperation has described the new accords with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. As Israel and the two Gulf nations agree to normalize relations, new opportunities in a variety of sectors, including energy, tourism, technology, and agriculture, are opening up. Economists say the deal makes sense on many levels.
In terms of collaboration, there are many strategic threats that both Emirates and Israel are facing that are much more common than their differences. So we don't see, for example, a reason not to collaborate around cyber.
Israel is hoping to attract Gulf investment into its technology sector, while the UAE and Bahrain are keen to take advantage of Israeli know-how regarding water desalination and recycling. Groundwork is also being laid for a surge in travelers, with direct commercial flights to the UAE expected before the end of the year. Israeli media is reporting the Abu Dhabi Department of Culture and Tourism has instructed hotels to be ready to serve kosher meals to guests. In the future, the economic benefits from the accord could dwarf the current combined trade with Israel's two other Arab partners, Egypt and Jordan, which accounts for just over $800 million. The Israeli intelligence minister projecting trade with the UAE could reach $4 billion in 3 to 5 years.
Now, Asia's developing economies are facing their first recession in 60 years. That's according to the latest forecast from the Asian Development Bank, which sees the region's economies shrinking by 0.7% in 2020. India will see one of the steepest slumps with a 9% contraction, while economies that rely on tourism like Thailand have also been hard hit. China's economy will continue to grow, but at just under 2% this year, a sharp drop on 2019's rate of expansion. The bank expects the region to recover next year with growth of almost 7%. Now, the stronger performance by China's economy is already emerging in the latest economic figures. Retail sales rose in August in China. That's the first time we've seen that happen since the pandemic struck at the start of the year. Until now, spending had remained sluggish, despite the virus being largely under control. Factory output rose as well last month. Oxford Economics saying the recovery in China is now on a reasonably firm footing. Now, airlines are among the companies that have been worst hit by the pandemic as passenger travel has failed to recover since lockdown. Several low-cost carriers have tried to capitalise on the increased demand in France for internal flights during the summer season. It's helped them stem their losses from an otherwise disappointing peak time for travel.
Budget carriers are looking to woo back passengers as the pandemic continues to disrupt air travel. Many are sticking with a familiar formula, deeply discounted tickets. Ryanair offering Bordeaux-Lille flights for €9.99, while the Nantes-Montpellier route on Spanish budget airline Volotea is just €9.
C'est surtout le prix qui nous intéresse. Nous, on a payé 120 € à deux pour faire l'aller-retour Brest-Nice. Donc c'est déterminant.
With many international destinations remaining closed, budget airlines are also prioritizing domestic travel. Here in France, around 20 new routes connect cities like Strasbourg, Biarritz, Brest, Nice, and Lille, Perpignan. They've proven popular with travelers over the summer holidays. Airline analysts say low-cost carriers have more flexibility to adapt to changes.
Les grandes compagnies traditionnelles ont une certaine inertie. Et pour lancer de nouvelles lignes, il faut des accords, notamment des syndicats, il faut aussi toute une logistique à mettre en place. Alors que ces compagnies-là, c'est très rapide, elles ont presque, j'ai envie de dire, des salariés jetables avec des coûts sociaux qui sont excessivement faibles. Elles peuvent très facilement recruter pour 2-3 mois.
The low-cost carriers have also implemented deep budget cuts. EasyJet eliminating a third of its workforce, while Wizz Air has laid off 1,000 employees. And Ryanair has reduced salaries. The measures helping the airlines weather the crisis.
The car makers Fiat Chrysler and PSA, the owner of Peugeot and Citroën, have overhauled the terms of their €50 billion merger as a result of the pandemic. Among the changes, cutting the dividend for shareholders to keep more cash available to the new company, which will be known as Stellantis. The merger, agreed last year, will create the world's fourth largest car maker. Well, that's one of the stories moving the markets today. Shares in Fiat Chrysler jumping after that announcement, up by almost 10% in Milan. Shares in PSA, meanwhile, up around 2% in Paris a short time ago. While PSA's car parts maker Faurecia has seen its shares slump by 6%. That's because these new terms affected its future ownership as well. So less good news for that part of the company. In general, European markets trading up. This lunchtime, London's FTSE 100 leading the gains. They're up by over 1%. And finally from me, a former Facebook employee has warned of the scale of disinformation circulating on the social network. Sophie Shang worked on one of the network's teams monitoring what's called inauthentic activity. She wrote a 6,000-word post which was circulated internally on her last day at the company. It's been seen by media organisations including BuzzFeed. In it, she describes multiple blatant attempts by foreign national governments to abuse the platform on what she described as a vast scale. She says the company is playing whack-a-mole with fake accounts. Her letter raising questions over how well Facebook can police bots or automated accounts on the platform, which has more than 2.7 billion users. In response to Shang's post, Facebook says that it regularly removes coordinated campaigns and that it has a large team working on security. Annette, I mean, Facebook, this is a huge challenge, they're managing disinformation, especially in an election year in the US. We know how sensitive it was the last time around, so a big challenge facing the company this year too.
You would think, though, Stephen, surely optics is a key thing in all of this, and that as a very large company, they would want to be seen to be doing the right thing.
And as far as they're concerned, they're investing in people that are looking after this. Sophie Shang's argument in her departure letter from the company is that they're doing it as a PR exercise and not really tackling the problem. But she also points out the scale is simply massive. You're not just talking about countries that have had their finger pointed at them before, like Russia. You're talking about local level campaigns, even using Facebook as well. So simply the scale of it is what she's drawing attention to in this letter.
It's a very important issue. Thanks for that. That's Stephen Carroll with the day's news. That's it for this edition. I'll be back after a short break, so do stay with us here on France 24.